You get up every day, but it feels like nothing is really moving. You nod, you smile, but a part of you quietly wonders if this is all there is. You try so hard to stay strong, but inside, you're just tired. Most people don't stop because they're broken. They stop because they're comfortable. And comfort isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a slow surrender, like sitting in a warm bath that's slowly turning cold, but you're too numb to move. You used to dream bigger. Now you scroll more. You used to care. Now you just cope. Success doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to whether you show up. You've been mistaking stillness for safety, but safety can be its own prison. And you know it. Somewhere deep inside, your heart whispers, there has to be more. But it's not just burnout. It's the quiet shame of knowing you could do more, but choosing not to. You're not lazy. You're just stuck in the illusion of comfort. That soft trap that makes you think tomorrow will be different. But nothing ever changes. Napoleon Hill said that life will test you, but never beyond your capacity to push through. And sometimes the test isn't dramatic. It's invisible. It's in whether you keep waking up and doing nothing or wake up and finally move. What if tired isn't a reason to stop, but a signal to begin? There's a young woman in Seattle who wakes up every day. She logs into her 9-to-5, smiles through Zoom calls, delivers her reports, and yet she can't remember the last time she felt alive. Not sad, not depressed, just disconnected. And she's not alone. This is the real battle, not between failure and success, but between numbness and effort. You don't need a miracle. You need movement. Tiny, deliberate, uncomfortable movement. The world won't hand you purpose. You have to decide to want more, even when you're tired. Especially when you're tired. Because every day you stay still, comfort becomes the cage. And every day you move, even a little, you chip away at the bars. Maybe it's not failure you fear. Maybe it's the unknown that lives on the other side of effort. You don't need to collapse to be lost. Sometimes the collapse is internal, quiet, invisible. And that's what makes it dangerous. You're functioning, you're showing up, but you're not here. And every day you push down the truth a little deeper. They say, keep going. But what if you're not even sure where you're going anymore? That's the lie of a comfort zone. It doesn't feel bad enough to leave, but it steals just enough to keep you small. Napoleon Hill wasn't speaking to the driven. He was speaking to the drifting, to the ones who've forgotten that movement doesn't need motivation. It needs a decision. This isn't about hype. It's about habit. The quiet, boring, repeated choice to try. Again and again. That's how self-discipline is born. Not from fireworks, but from fatigue. Mental resilience isn't something you're born with. It's built one uncomfortable action at a time. When you don't feel like getting up, but do. When you'd rather scroll, but stop. When you'd rather wait, but act. Inner strength doesn't shout, it endures. You don't push through pain because it's noble. You push through because your purpose-driven life depends on it. You can't master your mindset from a place of avoidance. You master it by walking straight into discomfort and not letting it shrink you. This isn't motivation. This is maintenance. This is choosing to climb out of numbness, one decision at a time. And maybe your first step isn't bold. Maybe it's just real. You're not broken. You're buried under distractions, under self-doubt, under the heaviness of doing fine every day while your soul starves for more. But buried things can rise, and movement, any movement, is resurrection. Maybe your goal isn't a big dream right now. Maybe it's just surviving one more day with intention. That's still goal setting. That's still transformation. The journey isn't made of loud breakthroughs. It's stitched together by quiet, persistent choices. And that version of you you've almost forgotten, they're still in there. Still waiting, still ready, not for a miracle. Even now, in the quiet, you can choose. And that small choice is power. That small choice, it's how self-discipline begins, not in force, but in quiet return. Purpose-driven life isn't found, it's created through consistent, sometimes invisible effort. Emotional toughness isn't loud, it's staying present when escape feels easier. And right now, you don't need to leap, you just need to lean forward, into truth, into effort, into you. And this is your transformation journey. One real step, then another. This is where self-discipline becomes your quiet anchor. And in choosing discomfort with intention, you begin living a purpose-driven life. Some days, the fog feels thicker than failure. It's not that you don't want more, it's that you can't even see where more begins. You try to think clearly, but your thoughts loop like static. Every decision feels like a guess, every step a maybe. And beneath it all, a silent panic. What if I never figure it out? This is the mental weight most people never talk about. Not the big breakdown, but the slow erosion of clarity. You wake up, you move through tasks, you tick boxes, but it's like living behind frosted glass, functioning, but not quite connected. And when you try to plan, to focus, to get organized, everything tangles. Your goals blur, your purpose blurs, you blur. But here's the hard truth. Clarity doesn't just appear, it's created. You don't think your way out of fog, you act your way through it. And that action, it begins with self-discipline, not the rigid kind, but the anchoring kind. The kind that says, even if I don't know what's next, I'll move anyway. Napoleon Hill understood that when the mind is scattered, power leaks. Energy bleeds into anxiety, options become overwhelmed, and the result is paralysis. You don't need more options, you need one clear move. Mental resilience isn't found in perfect plans. It's in choosing one action and honoring it. One hard choice, then another. And suddenly, the fog doesn't lift, but you begin to rise above it. This is how you master your mindset. Not by controlling every thought, but by trusting consistent motion over mental perfection. You don't need to know the whole map. You need a compass. And self-belief is that compass. Even if your path is dim, your purpose-driven life doesn't vanish. It waits patiently for your return. So start simple. Choose a task that matters, not just one that's urgent. Say no when you mean it. Sit with your discomfort instead of scrolling through it. This is emotional toughness, not pushing harder, but pushing clearer. And as you keep going, the fog doesn't fight back, it just fades, slowly, subtly, but surely. That's your transformation journey, not from confused to perfect, but from scattered to steady, from blurry to becoming. You've set goals before, big ones, with colors and dates and bold declarations, but somewhere along the way, they turned into pressure, not progress. The to-do lists grew longer, but your energy grew thinner. And now, goal setting feels less like direction and more like debt. One more thing you're behind on, one more thing you're failing at. But what if goals aren't about achievement, but alignment? You don't need perfect strategy, you need personal truth. Napoleon Hill didn't teach goal obsession. He taught goal obsession with self-awareness. He taught that the most powerful goals are the ones rooted in deep inner clarity. And that clarity, it's born when you stop trying to prove and start trying to listen. Mental resilience isn't about never breaking. It's about bending in the right direction, toward truth. You don't need a massive life overhaul. You need a new way of relating to yourself. And that begins with inner strength, not the loud, fiery kind, but the soft strength of staying present when it would be easier to escape. When your brain says, you're behind, you say, I'm right here. That's mastery. That's where transformation begins. You master your mindset by noticing the chaos without becoming it. You keep going, not because you have it all figured out, but because you finally accepted. Forward is the only way through. Some days, moving forward feels like pushing through fog with your bare hands. You can't see the next step, but you know stopping isn't an option. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's how you build the quiet strength no one sees until they feel it. You push through pain, not because pain is noble, but because you are. This isn't a race, it's a reclamation. Every time you choose presence over panic, every time you choose effort over escape, you prove that clarity isn't something you wait for. It's something you walk toward. This is what it means to keep going, not with fanfare, not with certainty, but with resolve. And in that steady, fog-filled walk, you transform. Not suddenly, not perfectly, but truthfully. This is your transformation journey. Messy, real, yours. And what keeps you from drowning in that fog is self-discipline. Not forced willpower, but the quiet rhythm of showing up when it matters most. Purpose-driven life isn't always loud or lit up. Sometimes it's one dim light that guides your step because it still matters. And inner strength, it's not in what you shout, but what you carry. The storms you endure without letting them turn you around. Self-discipline is your daily compass when the path ahead is uncertain. Living a purpose-driven life doesn't require perfect clarity, just the courage to keep walking with intention. You've been through the numbness, you've walked through the fog, and you're still here. That means something. It means that no matter how long you've drifted, part of you still remembers who you are. That part, it's not loud, it doesn't shout, but it speaks in the smallest, strongest way. You're not done yet. This is where the shift begins. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got honest. Napoleon Hill didn't build success on hype. He built it on inner agreement, when your mind, your spirit, and your decision finally align. That's how momentum starts. Not with big wins, but with small choices that mean something. You wake up tired, but you stretch anyway. You don't feel ready, but you write the first word. You feel fear, but you keep going. That's the energy shift, from surviving to steering. You're not waiting for clarity to hit you. You're walking toward it, with hands open, eyes soft, and heart steady. This is where purpose-driven life stops being a phrase and becomes a pulse. You begin to notice. Your mornings feel different. Your no's get cleaner. Your yeses feel earned. Self-discipline stops being a grind and becomes a groove. Not forced, just faithful. You're not chasing perfection. You're choosing alignment. This is master your mindset in motion, not a destination, but a devotion. And here's the thing, you still get scared. You still fall, but now you get up faster. That's emotional toughness. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of commitment. You're reclaiming your energy, not just to hustle, but to heal, to live wide awake, to care again. This is where inner strength hums beneath your skin. Not loud, but present. Not for show, but for truth. You no longer wait for motivation. You are the motivation. Because every choice you make from this space, it radiates, it rebuilds. You're not here to hustle endlessly. You're here to heal intentionally. There's a difference, and you feel it now. Your body doesn't tense the way it used to. Your mind doesn't spiral as quickly. Your heart, once guarded, begins to hope. Not because everything is fixed, but because you've shifted. That's what it means to keep going. Not with force, but with flow. To stop bracing for impact and start breathing for impact. You push through pain now, not as punishment, but as a path. You understand that pain isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. To go deeper, to live fuller. You're not afraid of your emotions anymore. You trust yourself to feel and still move. That's goal setting from a new place. Not from lack, but from love. You don't chase to prove, you choose to align. And the goals look different now. Instead of more, you want meaning. Instead of speed, you want sustainability. Instead of applause, you want peace. This is your transformation journey. Not from empty to perfect, but from disconnected to deeply alive. You don't need validation to move. You need resonance. And now, every decision you make echoes that. The life you're building isn't just productive, it's present. You've come far, not because the world changed, but because you did. And you're not done. Every time you say, I'll try again, every time you whisper, one more step, you're rewriting your story, not from pain, but from power. Self-discipline now feels less like restriction and more like rhythm, a gentle yes to your deeper self. Living a purpose-driven life doesn't mean constant clarity. It means being okay with messy progress. It means asking, not what do I have to do, but what really matters now. That's how you master your mindset, not just when things are calm, but especially when they're not. And inner strength, it doesn't roar, it listens, it trusts, it chooses again. This is your transformation journey, not a highlight reel, but a sacred rebuild. From distraction to devotion, from burnout to balance. The fog is thinner now, the air tastes like beginning. And this version of you, they don't chase motivation, they embody it. You are not rebuilding from scratch, you're rebuilding from strength, from every step you didn't want to take, but did, from every moment you stayed, even shaking. This is not the end, it's the ignition, and with every breath, you begin again. Self-discipline is not about punishment, it's about honoring your rhythm. A purpose-driven life begins with presence, not pressure. Mental resilience means you feel it all and still move forward. Self-discipline is how you build your days. Purpose-driven life is how you build your direction. You've heard the voice that says, you should have figured it out by now. You've lived under the weight of plans that felt more like prisons. You've tried being perfect. You've tried disappearing. You've tried pretending it didn't matter. And yet, something in you stayed. That quiet peace that still hopes, that still aches for clarity, that still whispers, maybe I'm not broken, maybe I'm just becoming. This journey hasn't been linear. It's been layered, heavy, honest. You've faced fog that no one else saw. You've battled doubt with nothing but grit and a few borrowed beliefs. And somehow, you kept going. You stopped chasing a version of success that wasn't yours. You started questioning whose voice was behind your inner critic. You began asking, what do I want this life to mean? That question changed everything. Because once you stop performing, you start transforming. That's the shift Napoleon Hill wrote about. Not just goal setting, but purpose getting. Not just external wins, but deep alignment. You no longer seek control. You build clarity. You don't push through pain to prove something. You move through it because you're worth it. That's self-discipline. That's emotional toughness. That's mental resilience. This is your purpose-driven life in motion. And it doesn't have to look impressive to be powerful. It just has to be yours. And now, your story continues. Not because the path is clearer, but because you are. You've stopped waiting for the perfect moment. You've started honoring this one. You walk forward not because you're fearless, but because you've learned to walk with fear and still move. That's real transformation. And as you step into what's next, remember, you don't need permission. You don't need applause. You just need the truth of who you are and the courage to live it. This is what we explore every day here at Mindset Mastery Hub. Not motivation for motivation's sake, but meaning, alignment, power from within. If that's what you've been looking for, you're not alone. You're exactly where your new chapter begins. The world taught you to look outside for answers, but healing taught you to listen within. You stopped measuring your worth by milestones and started honoring your process. You began to notice how your energy shifted, not when things got easier, but when you stopped abandoning yourself. That's when the real change began. You set goals not to chase approval, but to align with your values. That's real goal setting. You no longer push through pain for applause. You move with it because you finally believe you're worth the effort. That's the kind of self-discipline that lasts. And the life you're building now, it's grounded. Not flashy, but firm. Not loud, but lasting. Because you've done the deep work, the quiet work, the real work. You've faced the mirror. You've chosen truth over image. And you've kept going, even when no one clapped. That's inner strength. That's emotional toughness. That's mental resilience. You've stopped needing clarity to start. You've started creating clarity through movement. This is your transformation journey, not from broken to perfect, but from disconnected to aligned. You are no longer trying to become someone else. You're finally becoming yourself. And that's power. That's what we believe in, live through, and speak about right here at Mindset Mastery Hub. Because this work isn't about motivation. It's about coming home to yourself. And the truth is, you've been ready longer than you know. You're not starting over. You're starting deeper. With every scar that softened your heart, with every silence that taught you to listen, with every fall that shaped your stance. You're not chasing momentum anymore. You are the momentum. And you no longer need every answer to take action. You just need to keep your feet honest, your breath steady, and your why close. This is how you keep going. Not perfectly, but powerfully. Because in a world full of noise, your inner voice still matters. It still leads, and it still believes in you. So don't wait for another sign. You're already living it. Every breath you take from this space, this grounded, aligned, self-honoring space, is a declaration. You didn't come this far to abandon yourself now. You came to rise. You came to begin. You're home now. Begin from here. This is how you keep going. It takes self-discipline to rise without applause. Living a purpose-driven life means showing up even in silence. To master your mindset is to trust yourself more than your fear. And this whole path? It's your transformation journey, self-discipline, purpose-driven life.